Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast. We're happy to have everyone back here. Good morning, Tommy. How you doing?
Good morning, Mike. I'm feeling a little just woken up and spicy this morning.
All right, good. We're jumping back into today with our another main topic of getting started with real-time intelligence. Kind of we've been talking about it for a couple of days now. Where do you get going? What should be some of your first projects? What might that look like? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And then with that, let's jump into some news items. Tommy, you've got a couple beat from the streets here and maybe some actual news items. Maybe you want to start with the news and go down the news route first?
Yeah, we'll do the news. I think Mike, I think we need to get into a few things before we actually talk about the good things.
Oh, okay. So you want to do the beat from the street or some?
Let's get it off our chest. Just
okay.
Get out in the open kind of thing. So, first off, I've obviously done a lot with data agents and they've been working great. Also done a lot with Copilot Studio. The integration, they've come out with more updates. Like, all right, let's really integrate a data agent, which is the Fabric equivalent of querying a data semantic model or a lakehouse. And again, triggering actions, getting relevant results. It's more conversational. Now, one of the biggest things that Microsoft has touted is in Copilot Studio, this is the Microsoft Global now, not just Fabric, you can create an agent that has tools. It's very equivalent to giving something skills. One of those is a Fabric data agent. So you can simply give it the skill of talking to a data engine in Fabric. Why would you do that? Not just have the data agent? Well, with a Copilot agent, I can have that conversation in Teams. I can have that really conversation anywhere the agent's available, and I can trigger other actions from that. Okay. Sure. So just a brief recap here. The biggest one that I at least talk on the air is a data agent that I have a semantic model that looks at all my starred repos. It comes from a Jupyter notebook that APIs, the data was starred. I get the README file so I can look at anything. If I want to say, hey, what were the recent repos? I know there's this one about Fabric that I started this month. What was it? Or it has Fabric in the README. Just get that information quickly, because it's a ton of things.
Sure.
Okay. Data agent works great, and it's a great test to show, metrics, but also get information, not just simply what's the number. Works great in data agents. So did the connection. It's so easy to set up to in Copilot Studio. The tooling works. You're like, okay, this is going to be really neat. So we finally published it. I'm in Teams. Oh, look, there's my data agent. There's the GitHub agent. Okay. I asked it a question. I'm like, okay, let me ask very similar basic question. Show me what repos did I star that had Python in the description this month. It queries, says, it looks like you're trying to go to Fabric. And I went, yes. Said, well, I can't access Fabric directly. Let me give you a prompt you can ask your data agent, and you can go into Fabric and do it yourself.
Interesting.
So, Mike, I ask you, like I've asked this question in other settings, what's the point? What is going on here?
Yeah. If it's not going to be able to communicate through to the other agents, what's the point of linking them together, I guess, right?
Exactly. This is insane.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I was, so I like your story, Tommy. So there's some disconnects between the Copilot type experiences between data agents. So let me give you, again, I'll jump onto your grievance with my grievance as well, right? Is when I build things in Fabric today, or if I'm an ISV or I'm a developer for things for Fabric, everything I must consume has to be from Fabric. I can't develop a workload that allows me to spend CUs that the customer is going to be able to be using from my workload. Well, because of that, because I can't share that cost burden the same way that Microsoft can with their workloads, I have to figure out how to pay for this Copilot or AI stuff on the side. And that just makes the billing method really difficult for people to have agents and things that assist you inside building workloads. So to your point here, Tommy, I want more capabilities for data agents. Yes, it's a data agent, but I may want my tool or something to interact with more than just the data that's in the agent. I wanted to do other things, like anything that an AI large language model could run. I may want to run that inside a Fabric workspace for whatever reason. So I don't know why I need to be locked down to like a data agent that only can look at the data and doesn't really have any other ability to do.
That's what a Copilot Studio is for.
Well, see, this is my point. Like, why can't I bundle up a Copilot Studio thing and just kind of land it in the workspace and then it just runs there? Like, so your point, Tommy, it feels like there's disconnects between which teams are working on things. And so let me ask another question, Tommy. There's Copilot Studio, there's AI Foundry, and then data agents. You're talking about Copilot Studio. Is that the same thing as AI Foundry? Is that a separate other thing?
Completely separate. That's model creation and deploying models out. So
like using making a model and using it.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, I'm not sure where it all fits. So again, maybe another story here for you, Tommy, around the Copilot thing. Maybe we'll get onto the news here. I had another kind of like note here around all this, and I was looking at this going, oh my gosh, this is insane to me, because I'm adding dynamics to my business. I'm going through some things.
God bless you.
Oh boy. Yes. I'm trying to just use Summit. I'm just trying to use, I should have gone to the Summit, Tommy, because I could have gotten some like 101s of like, so I found some good YouTube videos. I found some people that are really doing a good job explaining how to use like the basic features of the tool. And I got so frustrated because even just setting up basic things like, hey, I wanted to integrate with my email. You click this button here that says integrate with your email. It says fail. I'm like, well, how do I unfail it? Like, there's really no help. And then I started looking at like, where does Copilot exist? What can I use for Copilot? And to be honest, like, it's the simple things that make it easier to use. But when I look at like other tools that are out on the market, like the one I've been talking about a lot recently is N8N.io is really interesting to me. And I can do like pick up data. I can throw it to a large language model. It can do some things and they can push it back down. It have all these tools and other things that go along. Like, I look at this going, where's Microsoft's equivalent to these other tools out there? Like, I think we're in a place right now that Microsoft is so big and monolithic when it comes into the AI space. It's just able to kick out a couple recent decent features, but there's so many small companies out on the periphery that are building like really creative, really innovative things that are all, it's happening like so much faster other places. And I'm looking at all these things in the marketplace going, there's a whole bunch of Copilot AI things that are happening. It doesn't really feel like we're getting those features landed to us quickly enough inside the Microsoft products. And again, I shouldn't be surprised because Microsoft's never usually the first to market, but usually when they get to market, they usually do it really well.
So it's funny you said that. I actually did a webinar yesterday with Cloud Revolution, and we're doing a 4-part series on AI in your organization.
Wow.
So I'll send you the link, but we kicked off yesterday we went over Gartner's kind of real study, and they found that 85 to 95% of all companies who are trying to integrate AI fail because what's funny, it's themes that you and I have talked about previously.
So they've probably been listening to the podcast then. That's probably what's happening.
They got all the information from the podcast. but the biggest parts though, too, to your point is right now, a lot of companies are trying to find a problem or they have a solution, but they don't have a problem. So they're like, well, we need AI. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But the bigger part is just like you and I've talked about, like the NAN or N8N and other tools like that. They exist, but they are not enterprise ready because they don't talk to legacy systems and they don't work in the workflow. So like Mike Carlo can use it. It works great. What Microsoft's trying to do is so people can actually, what I think the other number that they found is while all the companies that they interviewed that were not working, 80% of them are using their own individual AI tooling themselves that they bought with their own dime, and they're using that day to day. So with Copilot Studio, what they're trying to do with data agents is supposed to be something off your own data and more than just conversational, right? So it's not, I just don't want to query something. I want it to act. I want it to help be more efficient. But once you realize that we just have a solution, but we don't have the problem, that's where we run into a lot of issues. And if I keep having these integration errors, even with things that are new like fabric data agents and an existing semantic model, you are dealing with a completely different kind of situation though too, because let's not forget that, I mean, Dynamics is the back end is legacy, Mike. So once you get into it, it may have a pretty interface, but that is years of infrastructure under that and licensing and all that.
It's
So
impressive in general. I mean, in general,
it
like
is.
again, I was also looking at this going like, okay, I could use that, or I could use some like hot internet random company, but like it all goes down to like, can I get the data out? And I'm like, look, I'm a Microsoft shop. Like I've got to get the data out or the information out of it somewhere at some point in time. So why not, just, grit and bear it here for a bit, go get the tool, turn it on. And then when I want to do reporting on things that come out of the tool, like now I'll have more, context to like any customers who are using Dynamics with Fabric or Power BI. I'll have the ability to like learn what's going on there and the pain points they're going through. I need to understand to more clearly talk to what's happening inside the Dynamics world. Anyways, it's interesting. I will say this: the one feature, everything just feels right now with Copilot, it just feels very disjointed for me, even though I'm wearing the Copilot shirt today. But the one thing I really do love is there's this feature that they've added that allows you to add images or text anywhere you want that has a lot of fields. So like if you're making like a lead or a customer or whatever, you can literally just copy the entire email text, or you can just copy from the website. Oh, I'm going to highlight some text of like, this is the location, this is the website. You can just copy that and just paste it right into a little window that's like right from your clipboard. Just paste it here and we'll eat it up. AI will figure it out and then it'll put the fields in the appropriate places, which I have found already. Again, I'm just starting out this journey. That's a super great feature. Like that was like, yeah, this is where AI should be used. It should be this like throw anything over the wall at it. It should be able to read the form fields that you're on, as well as interpret the data that you're giving it, and it should match them up as best as it could. So I have found that part to be very effective and super useful. So already I'm starting to see like it's like these little wins that are happening. And again, I think maybe I'm just very disillusioned right now is because I really want like an N8N Power Automate like experience. I mean, Power Automate is good, but man, what N8N is doing with all these nodes and the community part of it and making all these widgets and like everything's kind of like not for free, but like they have everything included. You pay for the number of runs. You don't pay for like more connectors. You don't pay for other things. It's just to me, I'm looking at it going, man, this is what Power Automate should have been feeling like. It should have been feeling more like this. Anyways, enough said. Let's move on to your other news items.
Speaking of Copilot, Mike,
First item up.
Yeah. Power App Copilot AI scope to the curated content in an app. So this is on the Power BI blog. And what we got here, my friend, is something I am intrigued to get your thoughts on, where I'm in a Power BI app and this is an app scoped Copilot. So the Copilot's only going to look at the context of the app that you're in. So ask questions to get summaries. Again, we're still dealing with the conversational piece of this. Just like when I can prep data for AI and a semantic model, there's verified answers. So we can prep that data. We can have helpful tips for the app authors in terms of making sure that it's getting connected to the type of answers that you're expecting. Mm-hmm. Add content for the Copilot reference and helping with discoverability too. So if we're users are new,
this makes more sense. This makes so much sense. Like this is what we want. Like I love this feature, and this is what I've been thinking for a while. Like, yeah, Copilot Home should be built into the apps. This makes total sense. Yeah, keep going, Tommy.
It goes back to what you literally just said about that kind of chatbot or the little kind of almost extension, rather than always having to go to a URL to go talk to your AI or do something.
Yes, correct.
This is just enhancing the experience you're already in. So I'm in an app, okay, right, and I'm not just asking, what are my leads? It's actually like, hey, I'm looking for content for, what anything we got on emails or our digital marketing efforts.
Yeah.
And here, not only is going to show you a report, but it will also show you, hey, here's some of the relevant visuals that are going to help with that. Here's some of that context there as well. So This is just, again, an enhancement to something you're already doing. I'm not
Yes.
doing something different.
I think makes a lot of sense in the idea that, like, look, an app is a curated group of things. It kind of naturally lends itself to like having focused control around what users see. Because Tommy, one of the things that we've been doing a lot for a long time now is recommending to companies and organizations, when you're building Power BI content, even back before we had Fabric, was when you distribute through apps. Like that's the way to go. So now inside the app, you have like, okay, great. You may have workspaces with lots of reports. You may have, so the Copilot home experience is a little bit overwhelming because it's like, it could search for anything. There's a lot of things you could be going after, unless you specify, to your point, Tommy, like the data agent is like now scoping down to a semantic model, a lake house, and starting to give you a smaller context window. This in the app makes, again, a lot of sense. Now, just because it shows up there, Tommy, does it mean, is there any ability for you to write custom instructions for the app with Copilot integration? Or is it just kind of more of like, it's just scoped to that and you kind of get what you get?
So you can do some prep, but there's no like system instructions okay. Yeah, you're not creating your own like app agent, so to speak.
Can you bolt on a data agent in the app yet?
Not yet. Right now, still to this day, and this is another
this is what you're saying.
Mike, the only place I can actually interact with the data agent is on the editing page. Again, which
you can pull the data agent in on the Copilot home experience, so you can add context to the agent there. But to your point, Tommy, though, like it feels like, ooh, this is interesting.
Talk about the definition of an agent. There's a difference, Mike, between a chatbot and an agent, and we are mixing the two. And
that's very true.
Problem. So an agent is an extension that does things on your behalf. It's a tool. It's basically like if you had something on local, like Claude Code, you give it a skill where it gives instructions on it can write these functions.
But that's not what
extension to a chatbot.
But that's not a data agent, though. A data agent doesn't really do that, right? It's more like a chatbot with more instructions. Like, I mean, that's more what a data agent feels like to me.
An agent itself should be more than just a conversational chat piece.
Yes, correct. So, it feels like a data agent is like you have like agents as you think about like what Claude Code or GitHub Copilot is doing. There's agents that are like, I'm writing code for you, I will manipulate things. Right. And then there is on the other spectrum, there's like chatbot, Copilot AI based things. Right. And so data agents feels like it's kind of somewhere slightly in the middle. You're giving it some instructions.
It's more like you're giving your chatbot or you're giving Copilot a skill or a tool rather than acting like an agent.
Data agents feel more like skilling a Copilot thing and not actually doing, like they're starting to get to be something. Anyways, this is interesting. Okay. I still think a lot of this is getting teased out. The product is not quite, we're very early days, I believe.
I have a prediction. Then we'll move on. I think in the upcoming year, because right now everything's called Copilot and Microsoft, Copilot. There's way too many everything named the Copilot that are different things. I think we're going to start seeing different names of some of these features across the Microsoft platform because right now,
interesting.
I think it's too broad right now. They're just trying to put everything. They're just equivalating AI and Copilot as the same thing, and I think it's becoming very confusing for a lot of people. But anyways.
I'm going to disagree on your prediction. I think it's going to continue to stay the same. What I think is going to happen, though, it's going to get a little bit more seamless. I think things will feel more similar, but I don't think they're going to get away from it. I think Copilot is the brand by which they're going to do everything through. That'll be what you use moving forward. Okay. There's one more other item here, Tommy. There's a October 2025 feature summary. I know we're at time here.
Yeah.
Do you want to quickly pick out anything that you thought was interesting here, and then we'll move on?
Let's just do a quick rundown, Mike. I got a few. Well, actually, did anything stick out to you? Because I can do a quick rundown too.
We don't need to just pick one thing that you like, and then we'll go from there. I'll pick one.
Okay. So one of the biggest things that I saw was actually just from the Fabric. I'm just gonna jab you a little more around the UI, the Fabric platform, where keyboard shortcuts are now getting integrated into the Fabric experience.
I saw that one.
Yeah. And also just more of a focus mode. So they are starting to put a lot of work onto that new developer experience where I actually like it, Mike. It's not perfect yet where I can have the tabs in the browser rather than actually having actual browser tabs, we're onto the right idea here.
I don't know, man.
I know. I think it. I have found it more useful than having multiple tabs open for different circumstances. Granted, once you get past 2 or 3 things, then it just gets very crowded.
Okay.
But it's we're getting somewhere where I think we're going to really enhance that experience.
Yeah, I think the design needs work more
I
there.
agree.
I still don't. I mean, to be frankly honest, I don't like it. I'm not using it, and I just go. I don't even the bottom right hand button when you're switching over between Fabric and Power BI. I just stay in Power BI mode all the time. I don't actually ever switch over to Fabric mode. I don't like the new UI on that one as much. I think it's just very super different to the way I'm used to working, and I don't really love the look at it. Yeah. Maybe it's gonna wear on me. Maybe I'd give it a try.
They're gonna, I think, really revamp it. I'm just gonna quickly shout out, and then we'll just move on. Something I really like with notebooks, and this is kind of almost taking right from Google Colab, where if I actually have connections, like let's say you have a connection to a database, and it's not necessarily connected to that Fabric notebook, you have to like specify all those credentials, yada yada, and anytime you need to call it again, you have to write that code. Well, they actually have a new tab in your notebook where you can actually create a connection to an outside data source, and anytime you need to reference that, you just simply add that to the cell. So if, let's say you have like Azure Data Lake Storage, another storage types, is kind of like a saved snippet of that credentials in that connection. So I really like that. So that's what I got.
So I'm going to pick on some weird ones here, aside from all the really cool RTI things that are coming out, which is kind of neat here. I think one of the more impactful ones here that was announced was the Spark connector for SQL databases.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
In the past, I've done some Spark connection to SQL, and it's been quite a pain, and it's not easy to do. I believe they've simplified this experience a little bit more. It's in preview. So again, I like to preview things right now. I think there's a large number of people who will want to get access to data from SQL databases. And I think having that available directly to you in Spark is a good thing. I think that's just going to make it easier. Anytime you make it easier for me to get my data into a different experience, really, really like that. So anyways, I'm going to pick my pick for this one is the Spark connector for SQL databases. I think that's going to be a major winner for me, especially when I have a handful of SQL databases now inside Fabric, which is awesome.
And they're enabling PySpark with it in addition to Scala, and it has OLS and RLS already included, and CLS, column level security. We got your security for days.
Security for everything. So anyways, very cool feature right there. I like this that feature there as well. Anyways, let's jump in. Let's go into our main topic for today. Our main topic today is coming back to talking more about, let's just get it back to, we've talked about how many things work in real-time intelligence. Let's talk about how would you get started with real-time intelligence? What does that look like? What's a beginner's journey look like? Where might we start? And how do we pick up business use case maybe on where we begin? And with that, I'd love to introduce back to the podcast, Chris. Welcome back again. Appreciate you being on for another episode of Real-Time Intelligence. We really appreciate your time here. We know it's extremely valuable to you, but thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Tommy. Nice to see you guys again. It was a very good conversation this morning.
Well, the Copilot things is
who needs coffee?
I'll also say this as well. When Tommy and I look at the analytics, like we do a lot of YouTube shorts, we do a lot of stuff on YouTube, all the hot topics that we find, things that get a lot of hits, everything's related to AI right now. I think everyone's just clamoring to understand, like, where does it fit? How do I use it? Where can I apply it? And, it's so common. It just seems to be, it's so new. I was talking with another friend of mine, Armando. I've done a couple of podcasts with him on the channel here a little bit. And Armando and I keep going back and forth about, man, what is this going to look like in like 3 months, 6 months from now? The things are changing so fast. It's so quick. And at the same time, I feel like, Tommy, we're at the same place where when Power BI came out and there were so many new features every month and it was so different. I remember back in the day, 2015, 2016, when everything was coming out brand new. I'm like, I feel so overwhelmed. I'm so behind. I can't get my hands around it quick enough. I feel like that's the same feeling I'm having around like AI and agents and all this other stuff that's coming out now as well. So anyways, good topics there as well. All right, Tommy, kick us off here with a little bit of the topic. Let's frame some of this conversation for, we've talked about the Power BI pros and how they get started. Where do we start with, like, let's just begin. Okay, you convinced me, Tommy. I'm ready to start with real-time intelligence. What's the main topic here? How do we start this off?
So you kind of just said it.
I kind of did.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I think what we're kind of concluding our series here on real-time fabric events is we've talked about it being in applications and application-based system. We've talked about really, again, what is it in the fabric landscape? Mm-hmm. And we've even talked about data modeling. So the one thing we really got to kind of conclude here is let's get started. So what are some of those prerequisites? What are some of the things that we can apply today? What do I need to know? So help me set up my environment, set up the architecture here, and just getting this kicked off and for my organization and for my tenant.
Yeah, so I think, Tom, it's a great question. And I was reflecting on your question in the last couple of days because I knew you were going to ask this. So like I was thinking a little bit about kind of when you want to get started, how do you get started? What are the different things? And to start, I think the best place to start is to think about your data kind of in terms of what it can do for you, not what you can do for your data, right? To steal an old quote, right? To steal a very famous quote that we probably all know, right?
Yes.
Like, instead of asking our data, like, hey, what can I do for you today? How can I pull this data and kind of put it on a schedule? Like, what can my data do for me within my environment? So before you even start sitting down with anything in Fabric or with any tool, like change the mindset, right? Of how do I think about all these different tools and things? And I know you were talking about AI right before. And like, I think when we talk about AI, it's so confusing right now because there's so many different things out there and there's such a new space that there really isn't, like, we're all clamoring to understand, excuse me, we're all clamoring to understand what is AI? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for my organization? And you mentioned a minute ago, Tommy, we know that a lot of AI projects don't really realize the value for what businesses are expecting from them, right? And my theory, and this is my thought, right? But if I started the fundamental and I look at an AI agent, whether it's conversational or whether it's agentic or whatever it is that I'm building, if I'm building that data on what happened historically and I don't have a real-time view of what's happening in my environment, then immediately the perception of value within that agent is going to decrease, right? Of being able to come back and say, what happened yesterday is not nearly as impactful as saying what's happening now. Like we were talking about on Tuesday, right? How fast am I driving, right? To me, like being able to ask that question isn't nearly as impactful as being able to say, well, I have an agentic application and I know when I hit this certain speed, or I know if I'm running delayed, if I'm running behind and I want to go send a notification to maybe a merchandiser or someone who's waiting for me on the other end that, hey, Chris is running late on his route, right? Those are the kinds of values that we start to get when we start to ask that question of what can my data really do for me? Because we've really broken the problem down from saying, instead of moving this entire set of data, like these are all the things that I want to watch, right?
It's funny. So, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, go ahead.
Bill, that's fine. I was going to say, you're really sparking here something very similar to what I saw when Power BI was rolling out. And I think what's happening with AI in general is right now, all these investments it's a solution looking for a problem. And I think that's what makes these very difficult to, in a sense, see the success. And I look at real time and I'm looking at the end-to-end tutorial that's available in the Microsoft documentation. And it's going through Fabric events, Copilot KQL query, create an alert, create a Power BI report. So this is obviously going through the whole gamut. But when I think about all of those features, right, I'm just going back to that the concept of here is like those are all solutions. Well, for these, okay, before we're actually going to see success, where, like, what are those problems? And I think you're touching on that, is kind of trying to identify that, like, where does my data work for me, and really starting there.
Right. What do I want my data to do? Now in Fabric, we have so many different tools and so many different ways to consume data beyond just Power BI reports, that whenever we start a project, I think the first thing we should do is take a step back and say, what's the right action system that I want to go make available for my data?
Yeah.
I might need a Power BI report, but maybe the Power BI report is a part of that solution. Maybe I want that Power BI report and I also want an activator alert. Or maybe I don't know what I need. I want to create these actionable systems because I'm really taking that step back and saying, how do I want my data to integrate into the fabric of my business, right? Pun intended, right? How do I take data, turn it into something actionable, and then integrate it to all those different pieces? And although Event Stream is the primary method for getting data into real-time intelligence, it's not the only method, right? We have lots of ways to get data into an event house, and the tutorial walks you through an event stream, and we can use event streams to flow that data, but we can also shortcut data from OneLake, right? So if we want to use pipelines, and maybe we're not getting that data, and maybe it's not happening every few seconds, and like we talked about before, maybe it's a vendor file that's coming in every couple of hours, and I can't use continuous ingestion in Event House for whatever reason, but maybe I want to use a pipeline, or maybe I'm using a notebook, or maybe I'm using mirroring. Any of these things that I'm leveraging to move data into OneLake, you can shortcut that data into your event house as well. So being able to shortcut that data into your event house, and then you really unlock all these different action systems that become available to you. So it's really about, like I said, sitting back and asking that question of, what do I really want this data to do? Am I just a data gatherer where I'm just gathering all this data, and I'm, as you just put it, Tommy, a solution looking for a problem, right? I'm going to pull all these different pieces. Or am I trying to solve this specific use case? And if I'm trying to solve this specific use case, what are those things that I want that data to then go do? So
that was my one takeaway. I think what we've been talking here for the last 2 weeks or so, Chris, is around that exact thing, is identify the use case first, right? So I think it's one of these things. I look at this, I go through all the tutorials. Like, it's interesting to just stand up the systems. So you have like two parts of knowledge you need to understand. One is, how do I get stuff into these real-time systems? That's just a basic understanding. I think going through the tutorials is very useful. There's actually a really good, Tommy gave me the link for it, so I got to credit Tommy this one. There's a getting started with real-time intelligence inside Microsoft Fabric module. It's about 12 minutes long. It gives you kind of like the overview of, describing what real-time analytics is, understanding the intelligence components, and then ingesting some data. So really good tutorial as well. So both those links are all in the chat window here, as well as also in the description of the video. But in addition to those things, right, I think it's so important to stand back and say, okay, why are we going down this path? What makes sense for us to do this extra effort or spend this extra money to make something a bit more real time? And for me, again, going through the demos, anytime you're working with Event House or some of these other systems here, they actually have a really good starter sample data set. So if you go through the tutorials, it'll say, hey, hook up to this taxi data, or hook up to this stock market data. And it does a great job of just kind of kicking you lots of information quickly. It's kind of on the high volume side of things, not necessarily more the event driven, because if we're really thinking about it, right, it would be very dumb for you to like do a demo and have to wait one day at a time to complete the tutorial and things like that. So caution there. I turned on a real-time demo, and it made a lot of data very quickly, and it stored a lot of information. Fine, it got the tutorial done, but make sure that if you're doing these tutorials with real-time data simulations, that you're being mindful of that. Don't leave them on for long times. Just do your tests, get it done. Once you understand how it works, delete the items and get rid of them. Yeah. I will say this though, in my experimenting and getting things started, it's actually really easy. A lot of the things connect between each other fairly seamlessly, and the connection points between the different systems, between KQL, between the CustoDB, it seems to talk fairly well between the systems, which I think is very helpful.
Well, I think there's a reason for that. When you think of the way most Fabric workloads and the way most data workloads have been put together so far, a lot of the tying and the integration has really been left up to the developer or the analyst or whoever it is that needs to put together. Like,
yes.
I want to move data from A to B. How do I do it? I need a pipeline to do that. So,
Yes.
okay, I'm going to go into my toolbox and I'm going to go find the pipeline, and I'm going to go find the data warehouse. I'm going to go find data lakehouse. I'm going to go find all these different things. I'm going to tie everything and go. I have to wire it up myself, right?
Yeah.
With RTI, we're all one big product group within Microsoft, and so
Yes.
that end-to-end seamless ingestion, we really see from beginning all the way to the end, right? And so like however you ingest it and then however you move it to be able to consume it, all kind of happens. But I want to go back to what you were just talking about from the samples. The samples are a great place to get started.
Yes.
But don't feel like they're your only samples that are available to you.
It's true. Good point.
Copilot or Chat GPT or Claude or whichever one you want to use, right? All of them are very good at generating sample scripts nowadays. And so
interesting. Good call.
Being able to ask it. And so I do this all the time. I do this almost every single day, right?
Great. Love this.
I'm talking to a customer who says like, well, I work in logistics, or I work in supply chain, or I work in, financial analysis, or like whatever, right? Whatever it is that they've got. Right? So I just go to Copilot and I just say, hey, create me a stream based off whatever the leading system is. Like I'll do some background work first. I'll be like, what's the leading background, or like what's the leading software tool for such and such use case, or for whatever it is. And then I'll ask Copilot and I'll say, give me the schema for that. So now I understand the schema. Like, so the primary data that's being created out of that system, now I know what that schema looks like. And then I'll go back to my LLM of choice and I'll say, now create me a sample stream that simulates that schema going to an event hub. And I choose
interesting.
And I choose an event hub because Event Stream has a custom endpoint. And so that custom endpoint is the same thing as an Azure Event Hub. So I can take the Event Hub connection information from Copilot and I just plug in the publisher that I've created inside my event stream to serve as my event hub. And then I just have a sample stream that flows. And so almost every demo that I do is personalized, right? I hardly ever use, and in all fairness, I rarely use those built-in samples because they're useful for getting started. If I just want to click and I just want to drag, or maybe I'll use them in like a conference or something if I'm walking through a conference and I know that I've only got an hour to speak, so I've got time is of the essence, right?
Yeah.
If I'm talking to a customer or if I'm talking to anyone else, I will typically go create something like that where I have an end-to-end flow, because then I can really make it relatable and I can make it and understand, and we can really see, oh, here's what this data can really do for me when it's coming in real time. Like, how do I understand all these kind of row level things and how they become important? So don't feel like you're limited just based off what's in the samples alone. Really, with these LLM systems, the world is your oyster. So
and I'm glad you say that, because one of the initial samples that when Event Stream first kind of got released in Fabric, kind of created that whole event stream, and looking at the tables that it generated, you're like, okay, look, these visuals, let me edit that. And then you went to the back end, you're looking, and I believe it was KQL, but however that just simple tables being visualized, the amount of code, they were like, I don't even know where to get started with this, because those samples are, I would say, be cautioned with those ones, the generic ones, because it's very comprehensive. So it's very hard to reverse engineer that. So I love what you're saying here about, you know what I'm going to do after this? I use projects and all my kind of AI tools, like always the custom instruction. I want to create a sample script generator, because this is a great idea where you can, in a sense, dumb it down, where it's not every sample, every solution in Fabric is, we're going to create everything for you. It's like, I just need to look at bits and pieces of this. So I love that breaking down side of it too, which also helps too with, rather than looking at all these features, but I'm not sure what problem that solves, we can be a little more specific here.
So I'm gonna use a term from Microsoft. I want to double click on what you said, Chris, around.
Don't do that.
I'm double clicking.
Double click.
I'm gonna double click on this one. So I don't know. Maybe I was recently in too many Microsoft calls. I want to ask more questions around. I want to understand more mechanics here on this one. So I really like what you said there, Chris. I love the idea of being able to, like, Google some things. This is where I think Copilot really shines, or whatever agent for that matter shines. Walk me through, like, where are you putting the script that's generating the code? Is this like an Azure data function, or an Azure function that you're using to generate code? Like, where are you? What scripting are you using that's actually going to be doing the schema generation of this like real time-esque data for the demo here? Are you going to Azure to stand up something? I didn't understand kind of what you do there.
I don't stand anything up in Azure. So to be clear, there's no.
That makes me happy. That makes me happy.
No Azure,
stay only in Fabric. Okay, so walk me.
In the logic. So in my prompt, when I'm asking LLM, I'll say I'm building a Fabric notebook. Right.
Okay.
Now I will either use a Fabric notebook, or I will use that to create. If I want everything to be self-contained and repeatable, and maybe I'm going to go share it with others, maybe I'm not even going to present it to the customer, right? Maybe I'm building it for you to present it to the customer.
Yeah, just mucking around with it.
I'll just put it in a Fabric notebook, and I'll be like, it's no big deal, right? Like, whatever.
Now I'm with you. Got it.
If I'm in a candidly, if I'm in a non-Microsoft environment and I know that I'm paying for it on my personal subscription, where I won't create a Fabric notebook for it. I'll just run it locally in VS Code, and I'll just say, just point at this event hub and just fire away.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't necessarily need a notebook, but I usually use a notebook just because it's much simpler for me to go stand up.
Okay, love that.
I use just VS Code for it as well. I love the VS Code agent, the Copilot agent that's recently kind of really been improving a lot.
It's been leaps and bounds, man. I love it. I agree with you.
Being able to just tell it, I want to create a sample stream on, project management data or whatever it is that I'm pulling from wherever it's because I'm coming from, and just say, go create me a script that just takes all this data, finds the schema that I need, and then goes and sends it to an event hub. Like it's leaps and bounds. What used to take me 3 days, now I can do in 3 hours, right? So it's so much quicker than what I previously used to do. But you don't have to use Azure. You don't really have to do anything. You can do it locally if you want. If you don't have access to do it locally, just create a Fabric notebook. Just send it. It's so easy. I've heard of Composer. It's super, super cool. A friend of mine plugged me into that.
Tommy, give me a hookup. Let's talk about Composer real quick. So this is Cursor Composer. Tommy, quickly give me what's that one all about?
Well, I talked to GitHub at the GitHub team at Ignite, and they call Cursor the C word, which I thought was just perfect kind of thing.
Oh no!
So Cursor, you mentioned it in VS Code, and the Copilot agent in VS Code is really good. But if you're like, you know what, I just want to go full in Barry Bond style into this, look at Cursor, and they just actually had an update yesterday about something called Composer and Cursor 2.0, which I can set up Cursor with my own custom commands, my own custom agents. And a lot of times what I'll do is, to your point, and I'm going to try this, is I want to create this event stream. These are the specifications. I'm going to go grab coffee. You let me know when it's done. And same idea here, but they just actually introduced their new model called Composer, which is specifically meant for the ID,
for coding,
that environment, for that environment, for the environment. So
everyone's coming out with a code-based thing. So like, Grok's got fast code. You've got some other Grok things that are out there. Copilot's coming out with some stuff. Claude Code is very much code centric. Okay, this is total random side tangent. I watched. Do you guys watch? I'm sure you watch YouTube because we're on YouTube right now. So I'm sure. So I'm going to assume you watch YouTube. Have you never heard of it? What is that? I still use my Zune. Like, what's going on? So, a gentleman that I like to follow. Have you heard of Network Chuck? He's the guy with the big beard. Talks about a lot of like code and network things. Have you heard of Network Chuck yet? Oh, hidden gem. Okay, you guys both of you guys need to go check out Network Chuck on YouTube. And he just did a video around, and Tommy, you may know about this one. All these agents now are coming out with their own CLI. So they're now, I'm like, what the heck, dude? Like, why do I want to, like, I have all these nice Copilot windows. I have VS Code. Like,
man.
Why on earth would I want a CLI for an agent? Like, why do I want to install the chat agent in a CLI? Oh my goodness. The information that these chat agents were giving you from the command line and the experience there. Again, I'm going way nerdy on the very deep end of this pool here. So just be aware. I'm going crazy here. I was floored by how much more capability there was. how much more, writing code, making files, and then all these like other experiences around like learn docs. Like when you write something with agents, you can have them like learn from what you've taught them, or they, re-summarize this and put it into a markdown file so that later on I have additional context to what's going on here. This is incredible.
And Mike, I think we need to do a dedicated one on the terminal. I would be interested if I could integrate terminal with this event stream, but let's get quickly a little back on track here because time is flying by. So
we are cruising.
We're cruising. Yeah. So we kind of talked about where to start in terms of like identifying a problem or identifying the actual action here. So I think that it goes in, for me, the next logical step is not just the infrastructure, but the technical knowledge or the language, right? So a big part here is, let's be honest, do you need to know Custo, KQL, and like how much of that, if I want to, in a sense, get started here is, what's my baseline of what I need to even know just to prompt my AI and what to do?
If all you're looking for is to be able to answer the question of what can my data do for me, right? And how do I take action on those things as they occur? Shortcut the data into an event house, and maybe you need to write a sample query, but we have a Copilot which makes it really easy that you can then leverage to go create an activator alert or whatever. So the short answer to your question is maybe a little, but not very much. The deeper you get into real time and event-driven architectures, the deeper you'll want to go into Custo. But it's certainly not a prerequisite to get started. It's not like, well, I can't really do anything because I don't know Custo and I don't want to go learn Custo, right? There's so many things you can go do with real-time intelligence that don't require Custo at all, right? When I look at the tone of what we were talking about earlier around kind of the end-to-end integration between all the different tools, now that I have a SQL transform operator and event stream, I can stream all my data into an event stream, use the SQL transform operator, and then drop it into an event house, and then just make it available in whatever downstream system that I want. So there's lots of different tools that become available to you, but you don't necessarily have to know it. But in transparent, it will help, and you'll want to know more the deeper you get into the product.
So this is the dilemma of choice here, and I love what you just mentioned. And also, I'm going to give you a little shout out too on your blog articles, the real-time dispatch. You had a few on data transformations in real time. So I love this, and I love that you're mentioning this because I think there's a diversion point in terms of, okay, I'm getting started here. We want to start developing real time, but generally speaking, when we think of doing transformations, right, where if it's usually for something that's going to be, I'll call more of an ongoing thing. I am doing transformations in a notebook, so it sits in a lake house that can be applied to other things. I obviously have I'm doing transformations for my semantic model. And again, they do two different purposes, but to me, I see both of those as these are very universal tools where I'm going to have universal data out there that I can apply in other areas. When we're thinking about transformations in real time here, how much is divert in terms of the kind of when you think of the journey of data, right? Where I'm already getting data in, I want to make sure that I'm not overlapping some of my data in so many words. So you mentioned Roach's maximum in your articles. By the way, Mike and I, huge fans of that. Yeah, love it, kind of thing. So
big fan.
That's how I was going to answer your question too. So now you're going to make me think of a new answer.
I'm that kind of thing. But when we think about doing transformations in real time, what considerations go into that? Because I think that's a big part of just getting started too, is how much should I do beforehand? How much do I focus on doing all my transformations just in real time?
So you kind of touched on it, right? I think the answer to that question is when we think about data transformation, anytime we're transforming data at the very end, whatever that very end might be, right? Maybe it's in Power BI, maybe it's in a data lake with a notebook, whatever it is, right? To me, it's not really fixing the root of like what's causing that data quality or what's causing that transformation. There will always be some type of transformation that you have to do to data in order to make it just usable in a human form, right? But I do really like Roach's maxim, and I've used it for years, because the further upstream you can do those transformations, the better. Because then you just fix it once and then it's taken care of. It's not really, I think all it's really doing, Tommy, is taking the data or those transformations that you would otherwise be doing in a notebook and saying, hey, I'm going to go run this and I'm going to go run it after the fact, right? And I'm going to go apply it on this big set. And I'm taking those transformations and I'm moving them upstream, right? So following that maxim, as far upstream as possible and as far downstream as necessary. So as far upstream as I can possibly get. I can't really get much more upstream than the second the source system generates it, I feed it into my analytical system and I transform it, right? Within like half a second of that happening. Like that's just about as fast as I can possibly humanly get. Right?
Yeah.
So like being able to do those transformations upstream allows you to do it once. And then however you want to do it completely is up to you, right? Maybe I do that transformation and then I, write it into my event house and then I send it downstream to my lake house, or maybe I put it in my event house and take some whatever my action on it is, right? But I know that by doing that transformation as far upstream as I can, I only have to do it one time. I know that no matter what happens again, that data has already been cleaned and transformed for that use case for what it's being built for.
I want to kick on two other ideas, just kind of as we're talking about, like, getting started, where do we begin? And again, I'm going to get your gauge on this too, Chris. Like if we're talking about the new users coming to RTI or getting in here, I think one of the first use cases that I see as being useful here is you're getting data coming in from somewhere, whatever that may be. Something's sending you data and information. There's two kind of in preview. Well, one in preview, but another one that's a bit more available is there's the real-time dashboard. So you can create a real-time dashboard directly on top of the KQL database. I mean, again, throw data to the KQL system, have data showing up there. That seems like a pretty easy starting point. You have to enable, it's currently a feature you need to enable in the admin portal, but you basically pick the real-time dashboard. You have a visualization page, basically. And then from there, you can just kind of start picking out data sources and putting them on visuals directly on the page. That feels pretty straightforward to get started. That's one of the easier things. The other one that just came out, which was at FabCon Vienna, was real-time maps as well. So now there's another object in the create items in your workspace. And again, the same kind of concept. You can do a real-time map. You can create the map and then have data showing up there. So let me just gauge those two first steps. Chris, what are your thoughts on the map and the real-time dashboard? Are those good first steps for new users?
Yeah, so one, I think for the real-time dashboard, it doesn't even necessarily have to be in an event house that you have to configure.
Okay, yes.
What I mean by that is in Real-Time Hub, you can actually take the Real-Time Hub, configure it to connect to an event stream, and then say, send this to a real-time dashboard, and we'll build the event house for you. So there's
nice.
We'll load it all in.
Yeah, so, not having to write KQL to do something. It just kind of like, boom, you're off to the races.
So being able to kind of leverage some of those pieces. So yes, you've got real-time dashboards. That's a great place to get started. It's very simple, very straightforward. You can leverage Copilot now to even just say, hey, within Copilot, how can I go build this real-time dashboard, right? Or I want to go create this. So there's lots of different options that are available to you. And then with maps, what maps allows us to do is start to get that really rich geospatial kind of insight into everything that's happening. And I'll tell you what I learned last week, which really blew my mind. So maps can actually be used for indoor mapping too. You can upload a custom map for some indoor environment and then go leverage it. So when we think of how we used to do things like in Power BI, we had the synoptic panel and all these other things that required kind of those extra pieces. In Fabric Maps, we can load those things and then kind of go create it. So there's a lot of different pieces. And if you're around and you're listening, make sure you register for Ignite and for the real-time intelligence session that Yitzhak is going to deliver. Because I won't spoil it, but I will say there's even more coming beyond just maps and dashboards and Activator. We really want you to be able to embrace what I was just talking a few minutes ago about what can your data really do for you as an organization, right? How does it get into that agentic? How does it get into those experiences that really take data from being something that's static and turning it into a dynamic, breathing part of the business?
I like that. That's really good. Okay. Let's go through kind of maybe some final thoughts here on those new users getting into Fabric real-time intelligence. I think this is, again, if I'm looking at the lens of the world, my lens has traditionally been Power BI, right? That's I think the audience that we talk to today that is our space. And one of the things I'm very excited about for Fabric is it opens up a whole new world for these other experiences that we haven't really been able to have before. I didn't want to spin up event hubs inside Azure to go get information and do things with. So I feel like there's a huge barrier that has been removed for any of this real-time intelligence piece, because now it's just part of Fabric. So I'm very encouraged by this. I do think this is something that you want to start experimenting with. And so this is something where you need to get your feet wet. You need to jump in, start experimenting with these things inside real-time intelligence, because I think you can find some simple use cases. And I do want to be careful. Real-time intelligence isn't always about the streaming event, high volume stuff. I think, real-time actionable events is also extremely useful when we're talking about, event-driven architectures. I think that's also very real-time, but a very different use case. So I think those are really important. Tommy, over to you. Final thoughts.
I'm going to yield my final thought to a question for Chris here. And because you were saying our hearts are Power BI. So what are just some of the best use cases of not the data coming in Power BI or creating a Power BI report off of event stream using the integration? So obviously you can create all the visuals in event stream or in event hub, but where have you seen the best examples of a Power BI report utilizing real time and having the highest impact for teams or an organization?
It's a great question. It's anything you really want. Like, imagine your Power BI report today. How often does your Power BI report refresh? What if you could get that data in real time, right? We used to have things like streaming data sets. We used to have some of these other things, but they were really complicated to set up. Right? Now you can load all that data into real time and you can put it all in an event house and you can put Power BI directly on top, right? So even if all those other things that we're talking about and you're like, hey, I just need reports, right? Okay, but what if you could get that report as those events or as those facts are being generated, right? Load all that in and then run your Power BI report on top. Like the use case can really be whatever business process you're trying to measure, right? What are all the different things that you're looking for to go say, like, man, this data is useful. Wouldn't this data be way more useful if I could get this data refreshed much more often?
Gotcha. Because I'm thinking why the difference on why would I just create the visuals in the event stream, like that dashboard feature? So
I think that's a very important question to ask yourself is what I keep going to.
It goes back to our old thing about it's got to do something better than something else or has no reason to exist.
Yeah. It's if I'm going to get the data faster, what decision am I making until the next point of data shows up that I need to do something? Like if you just want to see it just because you want to see it, that's not a good reason why you want to put it in real-time intelligence. You need to be able to look at it and go, when I get this data quickly, I'm able to make faster decisions. That's the point here. That's the point really. And back to our moniker, Tommy, we've been saying for years now, if the report doesn't make you money or save you money, it's not worth putting in the report. I think this is the same applies here for real-time intelligence. What is real-time intelligence helping you do to either make money or save money with that information? That's a good barometer of, is it a fancy, flashy feature that I just want to show off? Or is it really driving, like, end of the day business value, making you money in your business? And I think that's a good barometer of, like, if it ticks that box, we're good to go.
I love that. Is it making money or is it saving money?
Feel free to steal it, and many people have.
Every report lens you look at, I mean, if you really distill it down, right? Every report should be doing one of those two things. And if it doesn't, I would question, why does it exist?
And I would take that a step further and I would say, why does it always have to be a report? Maybe I need a report to do one of those two things.
Exactly.
But if there are, with AI and with all these other things that we're talking about, I'm not only limited to those things anymore. And now if I want to make money or save money, I have all these other things that are available to me, right? I can leverage all these new tools that are available within Fabric, typically in RTI, where I can say, hey, as these things are occurring in my environment, how do I use it to make money faster? Or how do I use it to save money faster, right? Of all these pieces.
Listen, this goes back to my existence of the iPad, man. It's the same spiel that Steve Jobs said. And this is where I've focused so much too on all the choices we have. Steve Jobs said, if we're going to create a tablet, It's got to do something better than the other things that we have, or no reason to exist.
Yeah.
So, and though we have to identify too, not just the problem, but if I'm going to create visuals in the event stream, if I'm doing it in Power BI, it has to do something better or better experience for the users. Anyways, but I love that. So, all right.
All right. I want to put in one note here in the chat window. So the webinar from Ignite, or the session, I guess it's like an hour-long session. The session that is in Ignite that you should check out, I believe it's called Unlock the Power of Real-Time Intelligence in the Era of AI. That's a session. I got the link from the Ignite website. It's actually in the chat window as well. So if you want to check out this session, make sure you go hit up that session. I think that's the one we're looking for. Chris, you can. Okay, yep. Chris is confirming for me. So we're good to go. Check out that session. I think you're going to see your mind blown. Again, I don't know anything. Chris is the insider here from Microsoft. He's saying this is something to pay attention to. So if Chris says it, I'm going to pay attention to it because you've given us a lot of really good things to think about over the last 2 weeks. So that being said, Chris, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you spending all this extra time with you, preparing and thinking about things and trying to unpack this story with us around real-time intelligence, an area that I think is undiscovered a little bit inside the Fabric world. That being said, thank you all so much for joining. We really appreciate you. If you don't mind, give us a like. Let us know in the comments down below. Did you like this kind of content? Is this helping you at least become less scared around trying to touch some more real-time intelligence? I think that's our hope here, is get started. It's not super intimidating. Hopefully this gave you a couple techniques. I'm going to definitely take away that notebook one about building notebooks and some real-time data somewhere else, either in my Copilot on my VS Code, and start sending events to some things. That sounds really interesting to me. So I'm really looking forward to that. Maybe we'll have to get Chris on a future episode, or start doing a quick tip with Chris at some point. We may have to get you back on the show at some point, Chris, to have build one with us in real time here, so we can actually see what it looks like. That would be super cool to have a demo of you building some kind of all right, we're going to just greenfield it here. Pick a topic and we're going to make our own schema and go. Anyways, Tommy, over to you. Where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. And share with a friend, since we do this for free. Do you have a question, idea, or topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Head over to powerbi.tips/podcast. Leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, and join us on all Power BI Tips social media channels.
Chris, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.